were having a fundraiser for my radio program on which he appeared regularly whenever he was in America. And I used to end the program by saying, May Ashkad, my Kaddish Baruch Hu, may God, blessed be he, bless Am Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, and Rabbi Meir Kahana. And of course, the leftists or the Nizurikate, they went crazy. But that's the way this program, that's the way I ended it. So I asked him if he would come to the fundraiser. It was going to be in a mid-Manhattan restaurant. And the people, my fans, social fees were listeners would come. And he said, Shifra, I would like to, but I can hardly move. I'm so tired. I was sorry that I asked him, but I shouldn't put any, exert any pressure on him. In the middle of the evening, when they were serving the food, who walks in? The rabbi. Everybody's, what? Rabbi Gohanan is here, what? They ran over to Rabbi, you couldn't speak? And Dahl remembers it, she said, no, I'm not going to speak. I came to honor Shifra. Couldn't buy that from me. Not that I feel I deserve such an honor, but he was so loyal. He knew who was loyal to him, and he knew who he could trust, and not everybody that pretended to be a kind of supporter was, and some of them did some very, I don't even want to go into it, but he rose above it. He rose above all of it. And, this is a very important incident. When he was in prison one of 80 times, I think it was Gorbachev from Russia was coming in. They wanted détente between America and Russia. So they would bring in the Russian ballet, and people would come and watch the ballet. Oh, they're wonderful Russians. Forget about the Jews. They wouldn't let go out from Russia to Aliyah. Just wonderful ballet. So he organized groups, and they would come to the ballet, and they would throw, stink bombs on the stage, or they would let out mice, and they say, free Soviet Jews. Get out, Soviet Jews, let my people go. Well, what happened was, of course, they arrested him, and he already had quite a bit of arrests, and he faced 5 years in prison. And they were going to sentence him to 5 years in prison. Also, some American activist boys faced charges. And the day came for sentencing, the court was packed, and, they had 10,000 letters sent to the Jewish press backing him. He wasn't a criminal. He wanted to have the Jews come out of Russia. So the judge said, a Jewish judge, I think Judge Weinstein was his name, said, Rabbi Meir Kahana, step forward. I don't want to sentence you, but perhaps if you will admit that you won't go after the Soviets, and they would harass the Soviet diplomats and so forth, if you will stop your campaign against the Soviets, maybe we could reduce your sentence. The rabbi replied, Your Honor, I stand before you. You are a flesh and blood judge. One day, all of us will stand before the Judge of Judges, God Almighty, and he will ask me, Meir Kahana, what did you do when 3 million of your brothers and sisters were in prison in the Soviet Union for wanting to go to Eretz Yisrael, the Jewish homeland? So you, Your Honor, have to continue your way, and I will continue my way. Men broke down in the audience.
You had a similar story when you were arrested, right? Tell me that
I
one.
don't want to self-aggrandize.
Mm-hmm. No, but then you just told me one about...
Yeah, but I don't want to make this too much me.
No.
I wanted to be focused on him and, the fact that today, what's going on today, because they're going to if you show it, you'll show it today, right? I like the modern times, what's going on. Since he's gone, no leader has risen up, both here and in Israel, to do what had to be done. It would be normal if the Israeli government would have welcomed him with open arms. Not only did they not welcome him, but the Shin Bet threatened him. When he moved to Israel and he continued his activities against the Soviets to let our people go, they called him and they said to him, listen, Kahana, you better stop this, what you're doing against the Soviets, diplomats, because we don't warn twice. We're warning you, and we don't warn twice. And of course, he didn't stop. He we would have the campaign. We would sit in the streets. We would sit in the snow and the rain, let my people go. And I want to tell you, one night we were down by the Russian mission. I think that's on Sharansky. Anatoly Sharansky was still in prison, and the campaign was to free him. And the police wouldn't let you come near the Soviet mission. They were iron bars, but there were brutal police, like Nazis really, with billy clubs. And they said, Hannah, don't come near these bars. We're waiting for you. They would smack the billy clubs like this. We're waiting for you. And the rabbi knew, because the media was there, if there's no confrontation, the newspapers wouldn't write about it, and the issue of Soviet Jewry would remain dead. He got up and he approached the bars, and we went after him. And that one particular really Nazi-looking police came down on his head with the billy club, and with its sides, I thought I would live through it. And some of the younger boys tried to jump over the gate to protect him, and he hit them also. One boy lay in the street in the rain puddles, and I screamed, maybe he's still alive, get an ambulance, look what you did. They told me, call off the demonstration. If you call off the demonstration, we'll get an ambulance. I said, I haven't got the power to do that. Call an ambulance, the boy is maybe alive. They wouldn't call an ambulance. I ran to the public phone nearby, and I called the police. And I told them someone was being stabbed, send an ambulance. That's how we got the boy into the hospital. He was never the same. I mean, his head was fractured. But Rabbi Kahana Zatal, several days later, he couldn't remove the yarmulke from his head, from the blood, and his side. He never showed pain, never showed them pain, but we knew what happened. Anyway, that was a leader, and nobody could say that he didn't do these things. It was public knowledge. So at least the rabbinate and the organizational people who condemned him should have the good grace to keep quiet. You're not willing to get your head broken? Keep quiet. Let them do the job that has to be done. He said to me many times, did I say this already? He said, Shifra, a rabbi is not a profession. It's a calling. You're responsible for your flock. And all I could think of was Moshe Rabbeinu and how he was responsible for Am Yisrael. Anyway, he survived all the prisons and the beatings, and he moved to Israel. And in Israel, so the Shin Bet, that's right. They call off this campaign against the Soviets. We don't tell you twice. Remember, we're warning you. And don't forget the Shin Bet doesn't just whistle Dixie when they warn you. And of course, he didn't call off the campaign, so they called him again. He says, I thought you don't say anything twice. How are you calling me again? They said, Kahana, we warned you. And they waited for him. He had opened up a school here to teach leaders, young leaders, how to be activists. He was coming out of the building towards the night, and Shin Bet, or whoever it was that they hired, threw a burlap bag over his head, and they beat him and left him for dead. Beat him, and that's it. It was just mazel that he rolled over to the side. Somebody, I think, saw him from the window, and they were able to save him. But that was the welcome to Israel. That didn't deter him. He formed the Koch party because he always said it best. I understand the Arabs, and they understand me. Neither one of us can understand Jews. How can you understand a Jew after the Crusade, Program's Inquisition, and the final solution that they would go for the enemy Arabs and hate Kahana? But that was the story. And he ran for the Knesset 4 times, I believe, ran campaigns, and he went to court, the Supreme Court in Israel, which is certainly not the kind of court that should be for Jews. They ruled he must be covered in his campaign just like every other candidate. They wouldn't cover him. The media wouldn't cover him. So he hired a truck every night.